Stefano likes it short. Yes, F1's CEO, Domenicali, has caused a stir with the suggestion of shorter F1 Grand Prix. Wait until you hear the reasons and the paddock's reaction. This is F1 Grandstand. I'm Tony Craig, and if you are an F1 fan, you are in the right place. Hit the subscribe button and the bell button now. Join the community and get involved. Sorry, I am a little bit earlier than normal tonight. Had to squeeze it in. 7:45. Hopefully that's okay with you. Let's get into it. So, CEO of F1, Stefanodomenicali. Well, the Monza paddock was bubbling with debate about a potential change to the race distances of Grand Prix. Drivers, team bosses and other senior figures had split opinions on whether F1 should turn its back on its long-established 305-kilometre, 190-mile race distance. Now, one of the arguments being put forward was that the young fans showing an increased interest in highlights packages, so it makes sense to cut back on 90-minute races to better draw in that demographic. This is what Stefano said. Excuse me. Stefano said. I'm losing my voice. There's also the issue of the length of the competitions. We believe it's a bit too long for young people. We're seeing on many of our channels that highlights are very popular. Maybe for us who were born with this format, it's fine as it is, but there's a large segment of the audience that only wants to see the highlights. Today, everything is going very well, but precisely for this reason, we mustn't rest on our laurels, but think about what the next step will be. While the shorter races story gathered momentum, it is understood that Domenicali was not too unhappy about the matter erupting in public and in the paddock. That is why there was no effort to shut things down and kill the story beyond a few explanations to stakeholders in the paddock who may not have been aware of the nuances of the situation. It's a bit like when governments sometimes like to leak potential policy decisions to gauge public opinion before committing to them. So what was that opinion from the paddock? Well, Max Verstappen jumped in. So Verstappen said that there was nothing wrong with the current length of the races. It's fine. He said in other sports as well, sometimes you have an exciting game, sometimes absolutely boring, and you fall asleep. That's sport for you. You cannot always make it exciting, because if it's always exciting, it becomes boring too, because then, you know, a lot of changes are happening. That's also not always how you want to see it. It always needs to be a surprise. So Max, absolutely not a freaking fan of shortening the races. Completely agree, Max. So what did veteran, two-time world champion, Fernando Alonso have to say? Well, this was a view backed up by Fernando Alonso, who felt that while society itself was showing signs of shorter attention spans, changing major sporting events because of it was not a necessary move. Football matches are a little bit long, he said. When I sit in front of the TV, I'm not watching the 90 minutes fully concentrated. I go to the kitchen, come back, make a brew. He didn't say, I added the make a brew. There's always some moments of distraction, and no one is talking about having 60-minute football matches or something like that. So it's a problem with society and the kids, but not the sport. So probably it's not needed, that change. Okay, so that's a couple of the drivers. Let's go to a team principal. What did Haas boss Io Komatsu say? Io said, I think 300 kilometers is part of the DNA of F1. We've got sprint races, which you should remember, which are 100 kilometers, but the Sunday race, you know, if the tire strategy is correct, it can be 2 versus 3 stops, and that is action all the way. And he's right. You know, these longer distance races are exciting because of all the different elements in those races. I mean, young people do binge watch series on Netflix or sit for hours on end gaming. And let's talk about the highlights. Well, You only get good a highlight show because the race is 305 kilometers. If we shorten the race distance, then there's going to be less action, incidents. So the highlight reel is going to be worse. And if attention span really is a problem for younger people, then the sprint race will become the most popular event over a Grand Prix weekend, over the Grand Prix. And do we really want a Grand Prix to be restricted to a one-stop strategy? So much drama and race winning strategy is based on tyre choice, how many stops, safety cars, the reliability of the car over the distance. So when you factor all this in, what the hell are they on about? I'm going to go to the chat. Hi guys, nice to have you in the chat. Hey Gemma, you like your coffee short. Yeah, Gemma, I agree with you. Why should they short? I'm not going to swear, but she says F1 being short. You're right. Why do that? It completely removes the elements of the race which deliver all of those exciting moments which go into those highlight shows for the short attention span people. But Fernando Alonso's right, isn't he? You don't always watch a sporting event sat glued to the telly. You go into the kitchen, you make a cup of tea, you're watching a football game. How many times do you watch a boring football game? They're not always super top draw and exciting, but there'll be exciting moments, and you come in and out. And it's the same with Formula One. To consider reducing race length is absolute madness to me, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree. Whether you're watching live right now or you're watching the replay, get in the chat and tell me what you think about any proposal to shorten the length of a Grand Prix from 300 kilometers. Because if they come down to 200 kilometers, let's say, you're talking every race is a one-stop strategy, but you're basically but then you've got your sprint races, which are 100 kilometers. There's no differential between those two events on a Grand Prix weekend. It's absolutely insanity. And so if Stefano was leaking this out in Italy, at Monza, to try and gauge the reaction, I think we can all say, Stefano, you might like it short, but we don't. We do not want you to shorten the Grand Prix. It's freaking madness. But I do have your say in the chat, because I think this is something that we all need as F1 fans and as a community to just say, absolutely not. Because we need a reasonable race distance. One, it's tradition. It's been like that forever. They've been 300k forever. There has to be a stress on the car. There has to be an element of, is the car going to finish the race? Look what happened to Lando. He had engine failure with 6 laps to go. That's racing. That's what makes it exciting. That's how we see race results change. That's how we see lower teams getting on the podium because of mechanical failure in the last 10 laps, last 5 laps. God, we've seen mechanical failures in the last 2 laps. This is what we love about F1. The unpredictability, the stress on the machines. To take that away by shortening the races, and to take away the pit strategy element and tyre choice strategy element out of it, is absolutely crazy. It's madness, in my opinion. But I'm interested in your opinion. So get in the chat. And if you're watching this on replay, I promise I will come through the chat and see your comments and respond. But this is one of those things that's really got my goat. And I think it's not just me. I think I'm speaking for the majority of the community when I say absolutely no, freaking no. Do not shorten F1 Grand Prix. We've already had to accept the 50% electrification, which 90% of us do not want. But we've gone, okay, do that. We want the V8s back. We want the V10s back. That's what we actually want. But we accept it. Okay, we want to see closer racing. And we're letting you do your thing. But absolutely, if you think a justification for shortening the Grand Prix is because the youth of today have got a lower attention span, you are wrong. Absolutely wrong. I know the youth of today which will sit and watch Game of Thrones 5 seasons box set and not leave the house. Right? I know gamers youthful young generation playing on computer games solidly for 2 days straight with no sleep. So don't tell me about attention span. Make the racing interesting. That's all we need to do. And if you mention highlight reels again to me, you're not going to get a highlight reel out of a race that's half distance, are you? You're going to have like 2 or 3 moments in a race. How good's that highlight show going to be? You've only got a good highlight show now because you've got a reasonable race distance where different incidents, action, events, maneuvers, safety cars, pit stops, allowing for these moments to create a highlight reel. It makes no sense. So Stefano, no. And if you agree with me, get in the chat. Listen, I really do hope you're enjoying your Friday night. I hope you enjoy. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for watching F1 Grandstand. Please like, comment, join the community, subscribe and hit the bell so you can keep up to date. It makes a huge difference to the success of the channel, and I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Ta-ta.